Happy Friday, everybody. We made it through another week. I left you last week with a tease, a promise to talk about some specific actions that may be appropriate for down markets, Roth conversions, and inherited IRA distributions, just to name a few. And no, these are not for everyone. So let's talk about that this week. Today is March 28th, 2025, and this is your Friday planning video. Let's start where we started last week, but we'll take a different turn after we go through this. The question you're all thinking about, and many of you are asking me, the market's down, now what? I've been peppered with a few comments that challenge my assumptions from last week, and they are only assumptions based on the past. They're not promises, of course. So just the points from last week. These pullbacks can feel unsettling, but they're not unusual. In fact, they're part of the rhythm of investing. Since World War II, the S&P 500 has had a correction of 10% or more nearly every year. We just tend to forget about those when the market's been up for a while. Even deeper declines, what we call bear markets, 20% or more, they happen roughly every 5 to 6 years on average. But here's the key. The market has always recovered. The U.S. markets going into this one is batting 1,000. It recovered after the dot-com bubble, after 9/11, after the global financial crisis in 2008, and after the COVID crash of 2020. Each time, things felt uncertain, and each time, investors who stayed disciplined were rewarded. The past is no guarantee, but it is important to know. We did speak about the speed of this move, and this is just the 7th time since 1952 that the S&P 500 fell 10% plus from an all-time high in less than 4 weeks. In all but one of these instances, the S&P made an all-time high at some point within the next year. So this is why I think we should still have these conversations, and that investing is still a great way to build your wealth and achieve your financial goals. With markets pulling back again, it's natural to feel a little uneasy, but today I want to shift that lens and talk about something a bit more optimistic. How can a downturn like this can actually be a smart time to make some moves that benefit your estate and the people or causes that you care about? Let's look at a few strategies where lower market values can create some opportunities. Let's start with gifting. While values are down, this is not specifically your charitable intent. We'll get to that in a moment. This is more for your heirs. The IRS lets individuals gift up to $19,000 and couples up to $38,000 in 2025 without touching your lifetime gift and estate exemption, which is still a hefty $13.99 million per person. At this point in time, we'll see what happens. When stock prices are lower, you can move more shares within that limit, which means more long-term upside gets transferred to your heirs. This is especially impactful if you're looking at assets that you believe are undervalued right now. You're essentially locking in the discount and gifting the recovery. If you think that the markets and the investments that you're gifting will go back up, this is especially helpful if the gift will remain invested, obviously. Just the math of it, if you gift $19,000 to each person or $38,000 to a couple, and the receiver of the gift has it invested and it goes up 10%, your gift is not just $38,000. It's actually turns out to be $41,800. Just math. But certainly it gets more benefit for your gift. Next up, let's talk about Roth conversions and paying taxes on the dip. Now, down markets can also be great for Roth IRA conversions. Here's a very important note. Roth conversions are not for everyone, and the examples I'm giving are just that, they're examples. But please check with your tax advisor to find out if this fits in your tax plan. By converting assets while the value is temporarily reduced, you pay less in tax today, and the future growth happens inside the Roth, which means no taxes down the road. Remember the Roth IRA. This is where under most circumstances your money will grow tax-free for future withdrawals. There are rules that you need to follow, so check with your tax advisor. It's a good strategy if you expect higher income or higher tax rates in the future, and it's especially attractive for those who don't need to draw down their IRAs for a while. Let's talk about that charitable intent and the donor-advised funds. Charitable giving with long-term upside. Now, if charitable giving is part of your estate plan, a donor-advised fund can be a great vehicle. You donate assets, stocks, cash, and even real estate, and you get a tax deduction on today's value, and then the fund grows tax-free. There's a lot to this, and when the market is down, one of the biggest benefits of these funds is slightly less that is highly appreciated stock. In an upcoming Friday video, I'll revisit the donor advised fund, but for now, know that you should first consult your tax advisor. This is where the philanthropy road and the tax efficiency road can and often do meet. So you need your team on this. In most cases, we will consider funding a donor advised fund with appreciated stock so that you can avoid paying that capital gains tax. The fund itself is your 501c3, your charitable entity, and the upfront gift is your actual charitable gift for tax purposes. The idea here is that you can fund the account and make gifts over a longer period of time. Here's the bonus. If those donated assets rebound over time, the charity receives a larger gift in the future. It's a win-win. Philanthropic planning is a large part of what we do. If it's part of your financial plan and even your estate plan, let me know. Let's just go into one more, and I mentioned this in the tease. If you've watched any of these videos, you know that there was a change a few years ago with the passage of the Secure Act 2.0 This could be overlooked, but the planning that we are doing for you, this was huge. What this did was remove the stretch IRA provision, and thus, if any non-spouse inherits an IRA, the new law requires that the heir take out all of the money in that account by the end of the 10th year after the passing of the owner. This may not sound like a big deal, but it is. Remember that every dollar that comes out of that traditional IRA is going to be treated as ordinary income and taxed like that to the heir. This is, again, one of the reasons for Roth conversions. I just spoke about that, but let me stay focused. The inherited IRA cannot be converted to a Roth. So let's discuss what can happen. There are a lot of benefits to doing the distribution when the market's down. Most rely on what happens in the coming years, but one possible benefit, if you think, as I do, that the market's going to rebound from the current level, and once you distribute that money, it will remain invested in that market to participate in the rebound. Like the gift we spoke about before, the only difference here is that you have to distribute the money at some point in the 10-year period. This is just one time. You should do the calculations and you should think about it. These aren't one-size-fits-all strategies, but they're smart tools when markets are down. Whether you're focused on supporting heirs, minimizing taxes, or leaving a lasting legacy, downturns often offer more leverage than you might expect. In my opinion, and contrary to the few of you who have told me that it's different this time, I think that markets will bounce back eventually. They always have. The key is staying proactive while prices are low. If you'd like to talk about how these ideas fit into your personal estate or retirement plan, please reach out. We're here to help you think through it one step at a time. Have a great weekend, and as always, take care.